Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video we're going to be going over some recent comments that were made by producer Naoki Yoshida regarding Final Fantasy XVI. Now if you have your finger on the pulse in the Final Fantasy XIV community, you've probably already heard this information before, but it's like the only news we've had in such a long time, and it's pretty substantial, so I figured it probably deserved its own separate video. So recently, Final Fantasy XIV's development team hosted a 14-hour live broadcast in which they had all manner of events. Among them is what we call a live letter, where they reveal new information about Final Fantasy XIV, they interview some sort of guest developer or someone on their team, and then they do some miscellaneous announcements. These interviews are almost always conducted entirely in Japanese, and we rarely have translations. However, unofficially, a lot of people do take care of that. The Final Fantasy XIV Reddit Discord and all of its members of its translation team, which I will include a link to in the description below, and of course, Aitai Kimochi over on Twitter is always looking at that Final Fantasy news, so she did some of the translations as well. So our information about that interview is coming from those two sources. And that interview was between Yoshi P and Yoko Taro and Yosuke Saito, but the main interaction regarding Final Fantasy XVI happened between Yoko Taro and Yoshi P. Yoko Taro said, "Hey, I'm gonna apply to be on the Final Fantasy XVI scenario team," to which Yoshi P just decided to reply with a few Final Fantasy XVI development facts that we were really happy to know. First of all, apparently Final Fantasy XVI's scenario is completely done. There's nothing Yoko Taro could contribute to that because there's nothing left to do. All the plot lines and scenarios are all written out. Exciting milestone to hear about. Then he said that even the English voiceover is almost entirely done for Final Fantasy XVI. Okay, another milestone. I'm enjoying hearing about these things that are done or almost done. Gets me excited, gets me started. Can I predict the release date? And then Yoshi P decided to just go one step further and give us a little bit more. So according to Yoshi P in this little section here, Final Fantasy XVI, they wanted to have something ready for Tokyo Game Show 2021, but he just doesn't think they're going to make that deadline. They might, but he doesn't think that it's going to happen. He wants to make sure that the next time you see Final Fantasy XVI, you look at it and see instant buy. That is the reaction that he wants, and he will not show us anything a moment sooner than he thinks that that can be achieved. So the team working real hard, but probably not going to see it in TGS 2021. However, that is far from all he actually said. While Yoko Taro's poking fun and saying, "Isn't that news about 16 that it won't be ready at TGS? It wasn't at E3. Come on, when are we going to see some?" He said that it would be better if the next time we see Final Fantasy XVI that you don't have to wait that long before you can play it. He doesn't want to string along a bunch of small information just to satisfy people who just want to hear any little detail that we can get. And you know, if you're watching this, that we love those details. He doesn't want that. He wants one big announcement, wants you to see things like the battle system and systems you don't even know about yet, and then you are going to want to buy it. And he wants to make sure that it's at least playable sometime reasonably after you get all that information and that hype. So that tells me, I didn't think 16 was slow in its development. I mean, we know before it was announced that it was already being worked on for quite some time, but I still just didn't expect this level of, I guess, progress. I don't know, I guess maybe just after 15 and some of the other titles Square Enix has worked on where they announce things super early, it's just kind of become my expectation as a fan of the franchise and of the company overall. But this, now I can't help but move all my predictions up, kind of in anticipation of even just hearing this little bit of news. I was like, yeah, holiday 2022 or something like that. But now I'm like, oh, maybe not that far away. And honestly, I've been thinking that since Square Enix's presentation at E3, Final Fantasy XVI wasn't really present there. They had like a 5-second clip that said, "Coming soon." And among it was Forspoken, Final Fantasy XVI, and Avengers. And we know Avengers is going to be available later this year. If I'm not mistaken, October or November, somewhere around there. And the fact that it was right alongside those, maybe these games are further along than I'm understanding or anticipating. And you know what? We shouldn't get too excited. We don't really know. It could still be a year after the next announcement. There's no saying it's going to be like Q1 or Q2, but I mean, a man could get excited, right? This was the only news we've had pretty much all year, and I was pretty pleased with it. I don't know if you were, but let me know in the comment section of the video below what you think about this recent Final Fantasy 16 news. Are you looking forward to learning more about Final Fantasy 16, or are you still a little reserved about how you feel about another action-based Final Fantasy game? With that, though, I'm going to sign off. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned. If he does give us any of those little strings, I'll be sure to post a video about it. Anyway, thank you, and until next time, take care.